Hello everyone, this is Mr. E29, and today I'm doing a incredibly late anime review, Goblin Slayers episodes 3, 4, and 5. I apologize that I didn't get these done sooner. Life really just got in the way with school and everything. But starting with episode 3, not a lot happens in this episode. The characters that we meet at the end of episode 2, the elf, the dwarf, and the lizard man roll into town, and they have a quest for Goblin Slayer. Apparently, some demon lord has with him somewhere, but Goblin Slayer doesn't really care about that. All he wants is to kill goblins. So it turns out that some goblins have created a nest in elven territory. So Goblin Slayer initially says, "Fine, do whatever you want. I'm gonna go." He initially goes to complete the quest himself, but a priestess, after talking to another character, a female magician, who had apparently helped Goblin Slayer with another task, tells her that it's very weird that he partners up with somebody for this long. And initially, he tells the priestess that he's going to do this one alone, and he tells her to stay here, but she puts her foot down and says, "No, I'm going with you." And the rest of the characters decide to go with him as well. So, now the party is formed. They now have a full party. As they travel, they camp out for the night, and they start sharing stories and food with each other. And we get to know a bit more about what Goblin Slayer thinks. He believes that goblins come from the moon, the green moon in this world. There's a comment saying that goblins are born every time a person makes a mistake, but Goblin Slayer thinks that they come from the moon because that's what his sister used to tell him, and according to him, she never made a mistake, so why would goblins attack her then? It's kind of a sweet story. It's not a little bit crazy. But anyway, they reach the Goblin stronghold, and it's close to dawn. Would it be dawn? I think it's close to the evening. So, they have 2 goblins standing guard, and the elf fires an arrow, but she fires it wide. And apparently she could read the wind well enough because she knew the arrow would come back around, and it ends up striking the one goblin, going through its head and killing the other goblin. And then she shoots one more because they have a wolf with them, so she kills the wolf too. Goblin Slayer, going into episode 4, Goblin Slayer starts carving up the goblins to smear them with the goblin scent, much to the chagrin of the elf. Apparently the priestess is used to this by now, because she had just gotten it done to her so many times. This is just deal with it. It happens. But anyway, they're going through, and apparently the dwarf is so familiar with stone that he can read the wearing on the stone from people stepping on it, and he tells them which direction the goblins are coming from. So Goblin Slayer decides to go in the opposite direction just to check it out, and they find that the goblins had taken an elven woman hostage and had been sexually assaulting her. Now, she starts telling them, she starts saying the word "kill" over and over again, and then Goblin Slayer pulls out his sword and he says, "I understand." So he starts approaching her, sword drawn, and the priestess thinks that he's going to kill the elven girl, because he remembers when Goblin Slayer killed her friend from her very first quest back in episode 1. But as Goblin Slayer approaches, she says, "Kill this thing," and there's a goblin down hiding in the shadows behind her, and Goblin Slayer kills it. and everybody breathes a sigh of relief, but Goblin Slayer is wondering, what the hell's wrong with you? I came here to kill goblins and nothing else. So, they free the girl. The lizard man, who apparently is a shaman, summons some kind of skeletal warrior and orders it to take the girl back to a nearby elven village. And they wrote a note saying what happened. So, the elf is obviously, pissed off that whatever kind of been abused in this way. And, she's sickened by what happened to the point where she actually vomits. But the Goblin Slayer says, if you can't continue, then don't. But if you can, we're going to keep going forward. So she steels herself to keep going forward. And eventually they reach this big open area. Kind of like this amphitheater type space. And in the center is a bunch of goblins sleeping. They're starting to wake up. But Goblin Slayer orders his party members to combine 2 spells. He orders the dwarf to use a spell called Stupor, which makes the goblins slightly drunk, and then he orders the priestess to use a sleep spell. So that way the goblins will be knocked out completely. And then he, the lizard man, and the elf go in and start killing the goblins one by one. He starts murdering all the goblins. And, this is actually a really cool way that the Goblin Slayer uses his companion's abilities creatively, combining 2 different spells from 2 different classes to achieve a certain effect. So, as they're killing all the goblins, they start to hear a rumble, and inside, deeper into the fortress, starts walking out is an ogre. And, the ogre apparently can, the ogre is huge. He's really massive. He has this club, and apparently he can use magic, because he starts preparing a fireball. And they all crowd around the priestess, who puts up a wall of protection. But she can feel that the wall of protection is going to fail, so she throws up another wall of protection, which apparently is enough to help them survive the fireball. But after that, she's out of spells. So, the Goblin Slayer tells her, good job, just leave the rest of it to us, and the rest of the party starts fighting the ogre. And the ogre has really good regeneration, so a lot of their attacks just aren't working. And Goblin Slayer gets hit so hard that he goes flying into this stone pillar, and he's banged up really bad. And the priestess is out of spell, so she can't really heal him. So Goblin Slayer's down. The rest of them are trying to distract the ogre well enough, but their attacks really aren't doing anything. So, the priestess takes out 2 potions and gives them to Goblin Slayer. And Goblin Slayer reaches into his satchel utility belt, which is, Goblin Slayer's satchel essentially is Batman's utility belt. He has everything that he needs to get the job done in there. He takes out a magic scroll, and he faces down with the ogre, and the ogre's about to launch another fireball, and Goblin Slayer opens the scroll. And you see just waves shooting out of the scroll, and it starts to slice the ogre into pieces. And next you see the ogre chopped up, lying in a pile of water. Apparently Goblin Slayer had found a gate scroll that is used to open a portal from one location to another. And apparently he had the witch, the female magician that we see earlier, attach the location of that scroll to the bottom of the ocean. And the pressure down there was so great that when he opened it up, it shot out with enough pressure to slice the ogre. And the ogre is lying in pieces, And the Goblin Slayer pulls out his sword and just starts carving the motherfucker up. So yeah, they clear out the rest of the nest, and then they come back out, and there's a wagon waiting for them from the elven village. So they just climb in the back and passed out because they're exhausted from all the fighting. Now going into episode 5. Episode 5 is interesting in that it's a combination of not just a chapter from the manga of Goblin Slayer, or I guess the light novel of Goblin Slayer, but this is also a story that was featured in the Goblin Slayer side story manga. I don't know if this was also in the light novel. I just read the manga, but I recognize that the chapter was from the Goblin Slayer side stories, essentially stories about the rest of the characters that we meet in the world. But yeah, this episode is a lot more lighthearted, and it's really interesting to watch because we follow a porcelain-ranked adventurer trying to do a relatively simple quest of killing rats in a sewer, but his sword ends up getting stuck and he loses it. So, he has to find a way to fix his problem because the rest of the adventurers are like, yeah, I could give it another weapon, but that wouldn't really help you in the long run. So he meets up with the female witch, and apparently her boobs have the effect of a magic bag of holding, because he just reaches down into them and pulls out a magic item, a candle that lets you find what you're looking for. But anyway, as that's going on, we get to see Goblin Slayer interacting with some of the other characters. He's helping his childhood friend bring some stuff into town. He meets up with the rest of his party. They talk to him about going on another adventure. And Goblin Slayer is asked to take part in a promotional exam for another adventurer. And while the exam is going on, they found out that he had been keeping items from his party. He's essentially a thief. So they decide to demote him. And he gets an idea in his head to attack the guild lady, but he sees Goblin Slayer there, so he thinks about it, and then he realizes that if he does, Goblin Slayer is just going to knock the shit out of him. So he accepts his demotion, and also he's banned from accepting quests in that town. So yeah, harsh rules for misleading the guild in the reports. But yeah, they start setting up the next arc, and the thing is, in the manga that I read, this arc comes after another arc, which I like the arc that's coming up, but the arc that was supposed to be before it is one that I really did enjoy because it involved a Goblin Slayer rallying the other adventurers in town and getting a bit more respect. So it's kind of sad that they're not doing that, but they're probably going with a 12 episode run, so them's the breaks. Anyway, again, sorry this review is so late. Life really just got in the way, but I will try to make sure that the rest of these episodes are on time. Sorry. Anyway, if you like this video, please share it. Remember to comment and subscribe. This has been Mr. E29, and I will see you all later.